So this fire alarm panel, this Simplex 4005, which is just such a wonderful, wonderful piece of equipment that, believe it or not, I have owned for 6 years, actually coming up on 7 in just a few months here, has been the absolute bane of my existence. This evening, I had some time to play around with the fire alarms. I took a quick break from the 4010 to address something that I wanted to address on this. And in one of the last videos, I mentioned it. Last year, we had some water come in the basement. None of this stuff got touched by the water, but somehow moisture got into the membrane keys on this panel. And I had the old membrane keys from the previous CPU laying around. As many of you know, I replaced the CPU on this panel a while ago because it fried. And when I did, I decided to keep the old membrane keys and throw out the CPU because the new CPU I bought had membrane keys with it. So tonight the goal was to take this guy off the panel and put that guy on. Should have been a nice easy job. You guys can see here that I have no idea what the heck happened here. Must have been moisture that got into these keys. And interestingly enough, I can actually kind of scratch away at that. I have no idea what the heck this is. But anyway, the goal was to take this thing off, toss it in the trash, and put the original membrane keys onto this newer CPU, which is what I did. It was supposed to be a really easy job. But unfortunately, I remembered once I pulled these screws out that changing this part of it required removing the entire CPU board, which meant unplugging this guy, which is probably just about the worst thing that has ever been invented in the history of this planet. Pulled out the CPU, took off the membrane keys. Pretty easy. Took off the panel with the membrane keys. Pretty easy. Put the new one on, plugged it in down there, screwed those 4 guys in. And then it was time to reconnect this piece of junk ribbon cable to the power distribution board. Well, the power distribution board got broken. This little blue piece goes onto here, just like this, and it looks something like that. Little did I realize, this piece is not supposed to come off, and getting these pins into this piece, I'm not even going to try to worry about doing it on camera, but you guys can see, very awkward angle, and they have to be lined up perfectly. And even when you get them lined up, to try to grab the whole cable and pop that thing into place is very difficult, if not nearly impossible. Just, props to Simplex for designing such a wonderful ribbon cable that you can't even really plug back in once it's been unplugged. But anyway, out of frustration, I decided to pry this guy off, and now it just comes off. I used a screwdriver before. I figured that it was supposed to come off. Like, I don't know. Most manufacturers make these things to do. Plugged this into there. Tried to plug the whole blue piece back into here several times. Did not want to go back in. And I finally made a mistake and ended up snapping off that bottom pin on the power distribution board. So I broke it again. And I'm not good with, I can solder, but I'm not very good at it. And it would just be too much of a pain to fix this. So now this whole power distribution board has to come off and be replaced for the second time. This power distribution board, or the one that was on here before this, was fried. So this is actually a replacement power distribution board. Now this guy has to be replaced in addition to the power supply, which has been throwing a ground fault ever since I've had this panel. I was going to replace the power supply anyway at some point. But now that I have broken the power distribution module, distribution board, I figure that while I have that off, I might as well replace the power supply. So I'm going to be dumping another probably $300 to $350 into this panel that I was not looking to spend. So a little disappointing. It's a shame. I actually considered the minute I snapped that pin off just tossing this panel in the garbage with how many issues it's given me, but it's like I've spent all the time and money I have on it. I have an enunciator for it that works awesome, and I just don't want to see this thing go. So next step is to get on eBay and get a new power distribution board and a new power supply ordered for it. Now I know not to pry that blue piece off the board, and that somehow I have to get those pins into there. So anyway, not fun. If you find a Simplex 4005 panel that's used and it has issues and needs repair, don't deal with it. Don't even try to deal with it. It's just it's not worth the time, money, and frustration. I think that's about all I got to say for tonight. That'll be it.